All right, let's get started. Thank you all for coming to our presentation today. I'm Yuri, one of the founders of CodeGrade, and I'm here together with Devin, also one of the founders.
Hey guys, happy to be here.
Yeah, and basically I'll start off with telling a little bit about how we started, and then after that, Devin will actually give you an introduction about the platform, and we end up with a case study and telling you a little bit more about the possibilities of using CodeGrade. So basically, this all started about 4 years ago when we were still teaching assistants computer science at the University of Amsterdam here in the Netherlands. And basically what we saw is that in computer science education, continuous assessment is really useful. If you get an assignment every week, basically that means that you actually have to do stuff, and learning to code is a real learning by doing skill. The disadvantage is as if when you're a teacher, basically after a year we were kind of fed up with that grading workflow of grading 40 assignments a week. So as a computer scientist, what you then usually do is that you make your own platform to make grading more efficient. And in that first year, we basically got some funding from our university to develop the platform and also to pilot it, see if it actually worked. And after that, we established CodeGrade as a spin-off of the University of Amsterdam. And then basically last year was focused a lot on the Benelux and the UK, and also improving the product. And basically what we added was instant auto grading and like a lot of other features. And we tend to collaborate a lot with the universities that use CodeGrade. And since this year, we're also available in the rest of Europe, but also in North America and Australia. And we continue to add like a lot of features to the product just to make the grading workflow for teachers a lot better and the workflow for students a lot nicer. And that's basically also our goal in the future, basically giving the computing educators the opportunity to maximize their teaching performance so the students get the highest quality of education. And we do that by our grading platform that as a teacher, you will get a lot of efficiency, and as a student, a lot of extra feedback. And we do that with our community and also with the learning management systems like D2L. So the integration is very important to us, and that's also why we became an official partner. But now that I've talked like a little bit about our background, I think Devin, you can tell like a little bit more about how the workflow was before CodeGrade and what you can actually achieve in the workflow with CodeGrade.
Yes, thanks, Yuri. So as Yuri said, we used to be computer science students ourselves, also computer science TAs, and we really saw a lot of problems there in our workflows and a lot of things that were not well designed. So that's why we created CodeGrade. And the workflow that we used to have, and that maybe some of your students may have right now, is this. So it starts with, of course, creating the code, making the code assignment locally in their own editor. Then what they do, they go to Brightspace, they find the assignment, and they hand it in. Most of the times, you have a couple of files, a couple of code files, and you hand them in maybe one by one or as a zip folder or something like that. Next up, and that was the most problematic for us, was waiting for your feedback. Many times it took weeks before we got any feedback. And since coding is such a skill you learn by doing and you need immediate feedback, that was simply too long for us. Then after a couple of weeks, if we got lucky, we got our feedback. And most of the times that was just one line of feedback saying something like, well done, some minor mistakes, but it functioned well. You got 70%. If you have a code file that has maybe 100 or more lines of code, then this is not really going to help you improve that. We also saw later as a TA that this is a problem really because of the tools that the TA has. And that is because the workflow of the TA was just not suited to give feedback efficiently or to give insightful feedback to students. This is what we had to do as a TA. First of all, we had to go to Brightspace, we had to go to the assignment, and we had to download the code individually, since we have to open the code locally in our own app. So that's what we did. Very time consuming. Then We had to open the code in our editor, look through the whole code, and kind of find out where the mistakes were and maybe make a little note for ourselves what the mistakes were. After that, we of course had to test the code to see if it works. And this all has to be done locally. The problem was every student, we had to test the code using the same commands. But we still had to do it. We had to compile the code, see if it worked. And then sometimes, as we see here, it didn't work. We had to remember that. And then the next step was, of course, going back to Brightspace again and typing in our feedback. And since we only had a general feedback field, like you see here, we could only write down a couple of lines of feedback that applied to the whole document of code. And of course, we gave a grade. We saw that this was not optimized for students and for teachers because there are some challenges in ICT education. And it's a very, as Yuri said, it's a skill you learn by doing. And for that, you need formative assignments. But formative assignments are very time consuming to grade. If you have an assignment every week and you have 100 students, you need a lot of manpower to grade that. Next to that, feedback must be very accessible, qualitative, intuitive. Code files are often very big, it's multiple files, and you need to know where your mistakes are. This is something we have solved with CodeGrade, which makes code feedback efficient for teachers and engaging for students. This is what the student workflow looks like now with CodeGrade. We would try to engage the student with instant continuous feedback every time they hand in, and this works for any programming language. All right, so we're in Brightspace now. Students go to a Brightspace assignment as a normal assignment, but instead the CodeGrade window will open here. They can hand in either via GitHub or GitLab directly or by uploading files. Right away, they can also see the rubric, which kind of shows them how the assignment is going to be graded. As you can see, some of the rubrics have the AT logo behind them, which means that they will be automatically graded, which is nice because that means that I'll get immediate feedback right away. Finally, before I hand in, I can see which files I am allowed to hand in and which files I am required, so that the teacher knows exactly which files I will upload. After I uploaded them, right away I'll get to this screen, and instantly the test will start running, and I'll be getting feedback on my code, knowing which parts went well, which parts went wrong. This will also right away fill in the rubric automatically, which gives me as a student a very clear overview of how I'm doing in the different aspects of the assignment. As we can see now, the rubric has been filled in by the automatic tests, and I can scroll through the test to see how I've done. This really gives me a good idea, and if I made a mistake, I can click on the test, find out where I made a mistake, and if I want, I can now go back to my code, fix this, and hand in again. If I get stuck, if I have a question, I can simply go to the code tab, click on any line of code, and I can ask a question about that line to my teacher. This really solves the hassle of sending back and forth source code and will just allow me to ask the question right on where the problem is. So this is the student workflow now. If I want, I can go back, hand in again, but if I'm satisfied, I can now wait for the grade of the teacher. So that is also a workflow that we have improved with CodeGrade, and that is to efficiently and effectively grade your students and give insightful feedback. We do that with a couple of tools, of which the most important one, of course, is Autotest, which will already automatically grade most of the parts of your assignment, but also with inline feedback. You can find all the code right in the browser. This supports any type of code. You can click on any line and you can write your feedback on that code, as we can see right here. Now, of course, oftentimes we'll give the same feedback over and over again. For that, we have built-in snippets. You can just type a shortcut, press tab to autocomplete, and a full line of feedback will show up. This makes grading really efficient and really quick. Now, let's put one more line of feedback here. And we can really easily go through the code really quickly. And if we want now, we can give some general feedback as well, like we do. But now, of course, this is accompanied by the inline feedback. Finally, of course, we have this last rubric category that we can fill in manually. And together with the automatic tests that have filled in the other rubric categories, a grade will come out. I can save this, and this grade is now automatically sent back to Brightspace. and this all integrates perfectly. Next to this, of course, we have improved the workflow of the student and of the teacher. We've also added some tools that will make the whole experience better, like plagiarism detection, ability for peer feedback, especially for code, Git integration, analytics, and way more. So we can see here we have plagiarism detection, side-by-side comparison, and this works really well. It works with all major programming languages, and just one click of the button and you can find if there's plagiarism in your assignment. Next is the analytics. We've built in assignment analytics, which will show you how your students are performing. What's nice is because we have this instant feedback and continuous feedback throughout the assignment, and even before the deadline, we can even before the deadline see how the students are doing. For instance, in this example, on the rubric, and we can see how students are performing on different rubric categories, and if we have to proactively help our students with a certain aspect of the assignment. Finally, here's just a full list of our features. For instance, also summative assessment with exams. We have a very powerful API. And of course, you can be part of the CodeGrade teacher community, which Yuri will tell you more about soon. So what does this do in practice? One case study we have here with the University of Edinburgh. We started using CodeGrade about a year ago for an introduction course in Java with about 500 students. Before CodeGrade, they only had a final exam, which we often see with these courses with a high number of students. After CodeGrade, what they could do is they could add formative and continuous assessment to their course, which meant that there were more parts throughout the course where students were evaluated and engaging the students. What they saw is with CodeGrade, they had higher efficiency for teachers. The students rated the course very high, and they saw 20 times improvement on the final exam compared to last year. Finally, something we really like to see is that they were nominated for best course in the student awards at the University of Edinburgh, which of course was voted for by the students, and we want that to see that the students are enjoying their course and enjoying working with CodeGrade. This is just some other quotes. I'll not bother you with those, as I see it's getting late already. So Yuri, pick it up from here, please.
Yeah, thank you, Devin. Just so it's not just the platform, as I told before, we think the community part is also really important, and also the way that you're using the platform as well. Teachers really tend to like that, and we also have like an extensive onboarding. So that means a lot of Q&A sessions with someone from our team, but also helping you with automated grading, integrating your workflow, and making sure that you can transition your course to CodeGrade very easily. And besides that onboarding, we usually do feedback sessions throughout the course, especially for the first few ones. That really helps as well. And then for the development of the product, it's also community focused. So we're also an open source platform. And we also like to involve the community in development. That means we have these monthly webinars where you can basically, every one of our teachers joins. And there we talk about the development of new features and get some insights, making sure that we really develop the product with the community. And besides that, the product is then also updated every month with new features, but also a lot of features that come out of those sessions. And it's definitely really helped the product in the last year. And then, yeah, if you want to learn a bit more about using CodeGrade in your education, you can always schedule a personal demo at our website, codegrade.com. We also offer the possibility to then, for yourself, try out CodeGrade, of course, do a pilot, and basically whatever you want. And we're really here to help you transition your education to a bit more feedback and a lot of time gain for you as a teacher or for your teachers. Yeah, so basically shoot us an email. Either at hello@codegrade.com or at my email directly. It should be in the chat, or just schedule a demo through the website. And then if there are any questions, like, feel free to do them in the Q&A. But I think that was most of our presentation.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for your time, and please shoot any questions that you may have.